So we've got our first Death Guard Codex leaks not from Games Workshop, and I'm afraid it's not looking so great for the Poxwalker Horde. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where we've been covering the Death Guard Codex news as it's been coming out. The Codex goes on pre-order tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll have full details of the Codex very soon. I'll most certainly be covering it in full as soon as we have news. In the meantime though, a few scattered rules are starting to make their way onto the internet, so I thought we'd have a quick talk about them, and also quickly go through the Death Guard Crusade previews that Warhammer community has put up today. So here we have the first Death Guard Codex leaks, Diseased Minions, and Infernal Jealousy. These appear to be rules that are similar to the Space Marine Captain's restriction, or the one for Necron Catan, saying how many of these units that you can have in a detachment. Diseased Minions refers to Poxwalkers and Cultists, and Infernal Jealousy to the Lords of the Death Guard. I'd say of the two, Diseased Minions is probably the more important one. It basically states that within a Death Guard detachment, Poxwalkers and Cultists are tied to bubonic Astartes core infantry. You cannot have more units of Poxwalkers or Cultists than core Death Guard infantry in any one detachment. I think that the main aim of this is to try and keep the focus of the Death Guard Codex on the Death Guard themselves rather than their minions. As in the past, say in early 8th edition when Poxwalker hordes were a big deal, it wasn't too uncommon to see entire armies of Death Guard without a single Plague Marine in sight. It's trying to really put the Poxwalkers and Cultists in their place as hangers-on, as opposed to being the main reason to bring a Death Guard army. I can see why they've made this restriction, though it does make life a lot harder for anyone wanting to go down the zombie horde type playstyle. I would bear in mind that we know that core infantry does include Death Guard Possessed and Death Guard Terminators as well, so it doesn't just have to be Plague Marines to allow you the access to these slots. You could still run 3 units of Poxwalkers, 3 units of Cultists, along with Typhus and 3 units of Death Shroud Terminators perhaps. It does basically mean that there's always going to be an elite core to the army though, it's not just literally going to be hordes and hordes of zombies. If you are wanting to run a Death Guard Horde list, you can still get quite hordy between the two choices. At least as it stands, you can have up to 20 Poxwalkers in a unit and 30 Cultists in another unit, so with 105 points per Plague Marine squad, you can get an extra 50 bodies in each detachment. 3 units of Plague Marines could allow you up to 150 bodies worth of Horde, and that's only going to be around about 1,000 points worth of your army, so you've still got plenty of room to fill it out with characters and elite choices. At 5 points per model, you can still get quite a big Horde going, and I think that this is more aiming to stop the truly ridiculous builds such as say 300 Poxwalkers or Cultists in one list, which would be fairly easy to achieve if this restriction wasn't in place. I suspect that this likely heralds a similar Cultist change for Chaos Space Marines and Thousand Suns. You're going to need at least some Chaos Marines in the army if you want to bring some hordes of Cultists, and likely the same for Zangors in a Thousand Suns list. Possibly the most interesting and confusing part of this though is that unless the Poxwalker unit size has increased in the new codex, it would mean that the Death Guard Combat Patrol box would now be illegal as a detachment. Currently Poxwalker units can only be taken in sizes up to 20, but the new box contains 30 of the things and only 1 core unit of Death Guard. I guess we'll have to wait and see if their unit size has increased, but I'm not desperately hopeful that it has, seeing as in the recent FAQ, which did have the points costs for the Lord of Virulence and Miasmic Malignifier, the Poxwalker unit size still remained 20. I imagine that would make people quite annoyed if you're not even allowed to fill the Combat Patrol that's out in the Death Guard Combat Patrol box. To be honest, I expect this change will get mixed reactions. Naturally, anyone who was just wanting to run tons and tons of zombies will probably not be the biggest fan, where I suspect that the others might like the emphasis on the actual core Chaos Marines as opposed to their minions. As someone who'd be playing more against Death Guard than with them, I'm generally not too against changes that means that some of the best builds might not be 300 model armies. They can just be a little bit wearing to play with and against. The second rule that's come out in these leaks is Infernal Jealousy. This one's a similar restriction to the Space Marine Captain restriction, and it says there can be no more than 1 model with the Lord of the Death Guard keyword in each Death Guard detachment. Just from the way it sounds, I wouldn't be surprised if this applies to Chaos Lords, Lords of Contagion and Lords of Virulence, and probably Typhus himself as well. It's a change that kind of makes me hope that the Lord of Virulence and Lord of Contagion are going to get the standard reroll 1s aura that the Chaos Lord gets, as it would be kind of rubbish to have to choose between a reroll 1s aura and one of their other buffs, as I suspect that the reroll 1s aura would typically be stronger. In addition, it also calls out that you can only include a maximum of 1 Demon Prince in each Death Guard detachment, which I'm guessing means that they don't have the Lord of the Death Guard keyword themselves, otherwise why would they bother to state it separately? To be honest, it seems like one of the Lords of the Death Guard plus a Demon Prince could be decent choices for leading up a battalion or patrol perhaps. It's kind of hard to go too far wrong with Death Guard Demon Princes, They're big, fast and fighty, cast a psychic power, and very hard to kill. Overall, it could make army construction just a little bit harder, I think, but if you desperately wanted 2 or more, you could easily include a second patrol in the Death Guard detachment. You'd just be sacrificing a couple of command points for that extra flexibility. Finally, I thought we'd just take a quick look at the Death Guard Crusade previews from Warhammer community. As we saw previewed previously, Games Workshop has been tapping into the current popularity of disease by allowing you to create your own custom ones. We saw oozing, ravaging sores previously, and now they've given us some hemorrhaging pitted ulcers. This one gets transmitted on the roll of a 4+ for enemy units within 3 inches of your plague carriers, and it sounds like it could be really annoying to play against, as it means that when an enemy shoots a weapon, you take -1 from the number of attacks made to a minimum of 1. It could be pretty horrible for any army that has a multitude of 2-shot weapons. They do have a chance to become decontaminated. At the end of your opponent's turn, you roll a d6 for each enemy unit that's contaminated. On a 1 to 3, you can affect another enemy unit within 6 inches of them, but on a 4 to 6, the infection ends. Could be a big deal whether or not it dies out quickly or spreads like wildfire through the enemy army. Again, sounds like a fun little mechanic. Apparently these work by generating a random disease at the start of your crusade, and then as you go along you can acquire some virulence points to change and modify it, and presumably make it horribly nasty by the time your crusade is full-fledged. Next they've shown us a Chaos Boon table, something that's kind of a recurrent theme throughout the many editions of 40k, where one of the Chaos Gods decides that you don't have quite enough limbs or tentacles yet, and gives you some helpful extras to help you fight the enemy. I imagine this might be quite similar for Codex Chaos Space Marines when it comes out. Apparently you roll 3d3 and get a random boon from the table, and they've given us some example ones such as clawed feet, adding 3 inches to the model's movement, appended limbs for +1 attack, or immaterial edge to give them extra AP on their melee weapons. Each boon that you get apparently comes with a risk though. If you roll a duplicate on the boon table, then instead of getting even more powerful, you get spawned them instead. The character is removed from your order of battle and replaced with a slathering spawn. Very fluffy and fits how the fluff has been for a long time. Basically you can have 1 mutation risk-free, but as you acquire more and more, you get ever more chance of dissolving into a horrible spawn. As is normally the case, there's also some Crusade relics about as well. They're shown off one called the Warp Charm of Nurgle, which makes your model's contagion range always count as battle round 4, meaning they'll be affecting any enemy units within 9 inches. That one certainly sounds like a useful one, very helpful for getting -1 toughness on a large chunk of the enemy army as soon as your character reaches the fray. This time with the Death Guard Codex, I'll be both hoping to review the main codex and then do the Crusade rules in a follow-up video. If the previews come out at the normal time that they usually do, I should have the main codex review finished by tomorrow. So let me know what you think of the Poxwalker Horde issues. Is it good to try and reaffirm a bit more focus on the actual Plague Marines, or is it just going to be an annoying restriction which holds back one of the Codex's variant builds? Look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video and you'd like to see a fair few more Death Guard ones in the future, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where we'll certainly be covering the Codex in full once it's out. Finally, if you have been enjoying the videos and you'd like to help support the channel, I would just like to mention that I have an Element Games affiliate link, which you can find down in the video description. Element Games is a discount retailer within the UK, and it offers a decent 10 to 20% off Games Workshop's miniatures. If you were thinking about buying any Warhammer in the near future and you'd like to help support the channel, ordering through them after clicking in the link in the video description means a small amount of money goes to help support Auspex Tactics without costing you any more at all when you buy. Can just be a way to help support the channel if you were thinking about buying something anyway. I do have a very similar link for Amazon in the USA and Canada. Again, that one works pretty much the same. Just click on the link and buy literally anything off Amazon whatsoever, and a small amount goes to help support Auspex Tactics. Again, can be good just if you were thinking about buying something off Amazon anyway. In any case, a massive thank you for listening. Looking forward to covering more Death Guard stuff in the future, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.